Hey guys, it's Maddie again. I'm here to talk to you about design thinking. So design thinking was created by the Stanford Design School in California, and they came up with this process that's very specific, that has these specific steps that you follow to come up with solutions for problems, or come up with ideas, or come up with prototypes for certain products. So we talked in a previous video about the customer journey map, and this customer journey map is used to identify possible problems in touch points, where you say, oh, our customers are reacting this way, we want them to react this way. And that's nice when you identify that, but then what do you do from there? So this is the process you can use, the design thinking tool, to come up with solutions, to take action after you've identified what needs to happen. So business is all about making connections. I'm going to tell you that time and time again. That's the most important piece, is that you connect with other people. So the first step in this process is empathizing with your end user. Empathizing with your customer. And the word empathize kind of has to do with understanding their emotions, right? Understanding how someone feels about something, which is what you want to do very, very first when you're creating a process or a product or some kind of experience for a person. You need to understand that person and understand what they want, what they need. Because if you're just going off of what you want or what you think is good, that might not actually be what they need or want in a product or an event or whatever. So you empathize with them, and ideally you could interview people. You could ask them questions, but sometimes in your case with code epoxy, you might not have access to the demographic or the target market that you're trying to reach. So you do as much research as you can, right? You research what outdoorsy women like, what kind of products they're interested in, what kind of accounts they follow on Instagram or social media, and then depending on what kind of demographics you're following, you do the same thing. So once you have all that data, you can't solve all the problems, right? So you want to identify or define a specific issue that you want to address. So, given the problem that you discussed with the customer journey map, given those that touch point that you want to address, and the information that you've gathered about your end user, your customer, you take those and you put them together and define, if these people want this thing, then how can we use that information to solve this problem? And how can we make it connect with them better? So then, once you've defined it, you have to come up with solutions. And normally it would be called brainstorming, right? You just come up with all of these ideas, but in this process, the design school came up with the word ideate, which is the verb of idea, right? You're coming up with lots of ideas and discussing them with one another. It's just rapid fire, coming up with all of these crazy ideas that you can. Then, from that, and usually it's best done in a group, because after you take those ideas, you kind of present them to each other, and you say, this is what I've come up with, and you kind of consolidate all those ideas into the things that are most feasible, the ones you like best. Then once you have those best ideas, you make a prototype. Now normally you would think of the word prototype as having to do with a basic version of a product. But if you're not creating a product, it doesn't have to necessarily be a basic version of a product. If you're creating a process or an experience, you take a piece of that experience and you make a physical thing, a prototype that someone can interact with. And try as best you can to make a physical version of this, because then you're going to move on to the test portion, where you give it to someone and you say, interact with this. And you have them figure out on their own how they would interact with it, what they would do with it, and you observe what they do with it. You kind of get feedback from them, and ideally you could give it to a person in your target market, one of your customers, and say, how do you like this? What do you think of this? And then you get that feedback, and you can either go back to the ideation phase, like, oh, we had some good ideas, but maybe we can bring in some of these other ideas we came up with to make it a more effective experience to make it better. And then you go rapid fire through this process lots and lots of times so that you can get the best, most defined and refined solution possible. And if necessary, like I said before, you go back to your customer and you say, hey, we need your feedback on this, or we need to do some more research on what these people like better. And you have them give you more feedback and you go through this process again. So, an overview, this is the design thinking process that you can use to, once you identify specific things that need solutions, once you identify those touch points in the customer journey map where there are discrepancies where you want to make changes, you use this to make change and to move forward, to try new ideas and to come up with solutions or new ways that you can attack the problem of your marketing plan that you're designing for Cotopaxi. Good luck.